Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Michael Kennedy. Michael is the founder and host of two of the most popular Python programming podcasts. One is called Talk Python To Me, and the other one is called Python Bytes. He also runs an online training company for developers related to the podcasts. He is a public speaker, author, and entrepreneur, and we are so excited to have you on the podcast with us today. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. It's really great to be here. Thank you, Dan and Danae, for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. And we want you to just take a minute or two and tell us kind of where your focus is as, a podcast host and entrepreneur right now.
Happy to do it. So as you guys said in the introduction, I have a couple of podcasts. And for about the last two and a half years, I guess, I've been doing the podcast as my full-time job. For a long time, I've been a software developer and a trainer for software developers, maybe 20 years, put those together. And then I decided it's time to do something with a slightly bigger effect. And I thought, I go and I do these training companies. I would do stuff like I would fly to China and teach a class to 30 people and fly back. And I thought, well, that was great. I spent this whole week and got tons of jet lag and I helped 30 people. But what if I could help 30 or 100,000 people at the same time frame, right? So that, well, if I start a podcast, I can really do something a little bit more interesting. And I'd been doing programming for a long time, and I realized there was just no one in this space that I was interested in doing this in the Python space. And I thought, wow, I don't know why no one is doing this. There's millions of people that are passionate here, and there's literally no active podcast. So I actually had no experience doing it. But I decided, I'm going to just jump in and try. And it was really, really successful. So for the last couple of years, I've been just working on growing my podcast audience, creating these stories to share with the whole community. And then on the back end of that, I've been creating courses along with some authors that I'm working with to help take those people who are excited about some technology or something we talked about for an hour and give them the actual skills to use it through online courses.
That is exciting. I love your story, and we're really looking forward to diving into some of the tough decisions you've had along the way in this process. Is it just you that's working in this business now full-time, or do you have a couple of people that are helping you with it?
I have people who are helping to some degree. I have a partner. So I have Talk Python To Me, which is my longer podcast I do totally on my own. And then the Python Bytes podcast, I have a co-host, and we kind of do that one together. So his name's Brian Ocken. He's a great partner there. And then around all the other stuff, I have a couple of authors I'm working with. We're writing courses together. And then other people who are really important to helping me out. So I have some folks I found through like Upwork and other things like an audio editor, video editor, transcriptionist, these types of things that, it doesn't make sense for me to sit down for 4 hours and transcribe an hour of audio. It makes more sense for me to go create another hour of audio and let someone else do that. So I have people who help me there.
Great. That's what I was thinking is that you had some sort of virtual assistant that was helping you that you probably found through Upwork or something. That's pretty cool. So I want you to talk to us first about a tough decision that you had along this journey of becoming an entrepreneur and starting these podcasts that maybe didn't have that good of an outcome, something that you just hit you from left field and didn't really know, why it went that way, but you learned a lot of lessons through that tough decision.
Sure. I've taught myself this lesson more than once. And the lesson I'll start with that, is that as a programmer, technologist type person, we often think we have a great idea and we have the skills to build it. So it's sort of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And that is not true. That is such a hard lesson to learn because so many people, they think, if I could make this app or I could make this thing, then, they would leverage whatever network they have or whatever to be successful. And I've tried to start several businesses that technically were very sound. On web design, they were very sound. But, they launched into the cacophony of Web 2.0 and all the stuff around, earlier years, right? Like early 2000s, I guess, is probably the time. Just getting traction, getting attention was incredibly hard. So I've tried a couple of businesses and I spent, 6 months building it out and stuff and then launched it. And a handful of people came, they thought it was cool, and then that just sputtered out, right? So I guess the lesson learned from that is if you can have an audience, if you can create a community somehow and then provide something to that community that's valuable, you have a much better chance of being successful than just, hey, I have a great idea, let me go build that.
So basically, instead of doing what a lot of programmers do right now, where they, like you said, have an idea, create the product, and then go try to find the audience, do it the other way around. Create the audience or find the audience, and then create a software or a program or a product to be able to solve a problem for that particular audience.
Yeah, I think that that's the way that is more reliable, at least coming from that angle of people, right? The programmers and stuff. I've seen it happen several times, not just for me, but for other folks that are doing similar stuff to me who I've met. And, I've seen some really great success that way. I've seen a lot of hardship the other way. Ideas are a dime a dozen, and it's really marketing and the business savvy that you have to have that no one learns as programmers. That it's not the only thing, but it's a critical aspect of it.
Well, and I think as programmers, you spend hours and hours, countless hours developing and writing and coding. And then when you get into the part of actually trying to sell it and it doesn't sell, I'm sure it has an emotional component of it to say, this is not going to sell. I need to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, how do you know how long to stick with it? Is it, I need to do this for 2 years and push and push and push, and then finally it'll catch on? Or do I need to burn through ideas, sort of like the 7-day startup idea? Like every month I'm doing something different until it just clicks right away. And I honestly don't know the right answer for that, but I found something that worked for me. So I'm sticking with that because it's great.
Sure. And I think, like not even just with programmers and developers and things like that, but, this concept works in a multitude of businesses where, you see people, you even see them on TV shows like Shark Tank and stuff where they go on there, they pitch the sharks about this product that they're just extremely passionate about. And then when you start thinking about that product, you're like, that thing is never going to go off. That can take off, I mean, we've all listened to those, seen those shows, right?
Yeah. Shark Tank's interesting. I feel like half the time it's like, wow, this is really cool and amazing. Other time it's like, I don't think the world needs that. It is come on, people.
Absolutely.
But let's contribute really something to the world, not another plastic widget.
Well, and sometimes it's the things that you don't like, maybe you don't really think there is a demand for, like Dan and I have talked about before, like when are people going to stop buying our skeleton models and our heart models and our spine models? And yet every year, we have people that, and sometimes it's the same groups or the same people that need more. And so I would have never thought that something like that just would continue and continue and continue, but it just does.
And that's a 7-figure a year business that we would never have thought of that would continue to produce it. It's been our longest running business.
That is really awesome. Yeah, I think knowing what's going to work and what doesn't, it's hard to make that guess, even with experience. So I think having lots of ideas is really valuable.
Another one that kind of comes to my mind when thinking about Shark Tank is you sometimes see those things, but then sometimes you're like, how do they sell that millions and millions of dollars? Like Squatty Potty, man, like tens of millions of dollars of that stuff, And yeah, I mean, maybe incredible. I'm making fun of it and you actually have one in your bathroom, but I don't know. I mean, I think they're a really cool tool, but I would have never have thought that device would be taking off as well as it did.
Yeah, I think probably some of the really interesting businesses are really mundane and they're not the amazing Uber or Airbnb or, whatever other high-end company that people aspire to. It's something, that you don't know about, but there's more demand than there is supply.
But I think that's more of a unicorn product than anything.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can make it a blanket statement. I think the process that you're saying, it is the better way to do it. It is the better route is to, have the audience, create the audience, and then figure out what are some of the pain points and the problems that audience is having, and then create products and software and develop things around that problem for that audience instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I definitely endorse that.
Yeah. So let's shift gears here a little bit and talk about a tough decision that you've had along this journey that had a really good and positive outcome and some of the lessons you learned through that one.
Yeah. So I guess probably the toughest decision that I've had to make in the last couple of years that has had a good outcome is going full-time on my podcast, quitting my job. And let me just set the stage a little bit. I had been working at this company for 10 years or so, pretty high up. It's going really well. They got acquired by another company. And somehow I came along with this acquisition and actually negotiated even a much better pay and bonuses. And So I had a really good opportunity there, but it was sort of a transition point where I was thinking, this is great, but this helps those guys. Like, it doesn't help me pursue what I think is the most valuable thing I can do in life at the moment, which is help all these people in the programming space. It's more like help these guys build their business a little bit better. And so the really tough challenge was, do I quit this high-paying job? My daughters are 16 at the time. They're about to go to college. They're twins, so double down on college tuition at the same time. I can't just, go live in Thailand on $500 a month and like make it work. I have to start from a pretty solid place. So quitting my job was actually really quite scary. Spoke to my wife, did a lot of thinking, and then just, went for it.
So what are some of the strategies that you use now in making some of these tough decisions as you move forward as an entrepreneur?
Well, let me give you a few of the things that I sort of went through on this quitting the job thing. One was I applied the 5-year down the road rule, which is look at the people that are around me in this company that I was at. What are they doing who are 5 years down the road in this career path? Do I want to be doing that in 5 years? The answer was no. Definitely, I don't want to do what those people are doing. So maybe this is a problem. The other one was, we often are very afraid of failure, where I think the thing we should maybe be more afraid of is regret. And so I thought, all right, well, what is the failure case of if I quit my job and this goes badly? The failure case is, it's a booming market. I'm a developer. I have to go get another job just like the one I have now. So if the failure case is where I am now, why don't I take a chance and do something interesting? So that was some of the thinking at the time. But more broadly, I feel like so many people, they plan, they think, they ponder, and they strategize to the point where they just get frozen and indecisive. And there's a lot of strategies for thinking through things, but I think taking action is critically important. So put some time and energy and properly think through all the decisions and the options, but then, make yourself act. Don't just think about a dream or some project or whatever for 5 years until you're too tired or the opportunity's gone or whatever. Take action.
And I think, that's one of the things that I've seen, that has helped entrepreneurs who are in a position where they're in a W-2 job or whatever, is just what you said is, think about, if for some reason this idea that you have that you want to create or you want to start, doesn't go so well, you can always go back. You can always go find another job, especially if you're in a demanding position where, that people are going to always be looking for developers. People are always going to be looking for, attorneys and accountants and certain types of professions and, skills, especially in the IT fields. It's not going to hurt you to go take, 6 months, a year, 2 or 3 years, whatever, and try this thing. Because most of the time it's probably going to work out really well and better than you expected. But until you take that leap of faith and do that, it's a lot of times you're never going to know for sure. And you never want to have regrets. You're going to have regrets of what you didn't do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be, jump off the 5-meter diving board all at once. For me, I ran the podcast for a year and I built up the audience and I built up the sponsorships, so that the failure case also was a level that we could live on, not, super fancy vacations live on, but we could live on if it just stayed the same, right? But I thought, well, I'm doing this for 2 hours a week. What if I did it for 40? Surely it's going to go up.
For sure.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to talk to Michael about some of his favorites as it relates to his business.
Hello, this is J.V. Crum III, host of the Conscious Millionaire podcast, with a special announcement for business owners, entrepreneurs, and coaches. Do you want to create a big impact with your customers and turn it into big money? Then I created the High Performer Formula especially for you, because it contains the exact steps you need to become a high performer. Now, these are the steps I've used to make over $30 million, and I'm pulling back the curtain to share the steps with you so that you can reach levels of financial and business success you may have only dreamed of before. Get your hands on the High Performer Formula today. It's my gift to you, so go ahead and download your own copy now. Just go to consciousmillionaire.com/high performer. Again, go to consciousmillionaire.com/high performer.
And we are back, and we're talking about Michael's favorites in relation to what we call the trifecta, which is our series of questions and answers from Michael about some of the favorites that he has in business. So let's start it off by talking about technology. I know you're, in IT, you're a developer, so I'm sure you use lots of different types of technology in your business. But what is right now in your business? You have this podcast that you're doing. What is the most favorite technology that you use every day that helps make your life easier?
Let me give you two quick ones. I could definitely pick a whole bunch of programming technologies that are like really deep in my business, but I'm going to try to pick two that are more broad for everyone. Programming and the Python language itself actually is pretty amazing. And what I mean is developers these days, or people with development skills rather, are sort of like the modern day wizards. We can just make stuff appear out of thinking about it. And so many people, I feel like if they have some sort of specialization, and if they just had a small ounce of programming experience, they could take that and make it happen so much better than everyone else they're competing with. So there's like sort of my angle. And another thing that's broadly applicable to everyone is on Gmail, Inbox, the two email services from Google, the snooze feature. I get so much email with all of the podcast listeners and people taking my courses, and I can't always deal with them at the time that I get or I'm going through my email. So the ability to go, bring this email back to me next Tuesday when I know Tuesday morning the thing they're asking about will be available, just push that, clean up my email. That's really handy.
Oh, I really like that. I didn't even know. We need to figure out how to do that with our stand. We could come back at a different time.
Because you always put mine to sleep is what you'll probably do.
Yeah, exactly.
Snooze it next month.
So, Michael, what is a quote that you've heard, a favorite quote that you've heard that's helped you in your business?
Oh, I could go on and on here. I love these sort of motivational quotes things. I really like this YouTube series, Your World Within, from this guy named Eddie Pinero. But I'll give you one single quote. It's not actually from him. I'm not sure who it's from, but it really gets at the essence of, in the long term, what do you want to do with your life, and what are you going to, where are you going to be? And it's, if you don't build your dreams, someone else will hire you to build theirs for them.
And what about a favorite book that you've read that's helped you in your decision making or in your business in general?
I think I read a lot of books, and a lot of them have a lot of thoughts, but I think the one that really helped me make the decision to focus on entrepreneurship, as making that clear that that's critically important, is this one called The End of Jobs by Tyler Pearson. Have you guys read this?
No.
It's a pretty short book. It's really interesting. And it goes through the history of entrepreneurship. The main takeaway is the way society perceives risk right now is out of balance. They see getting a stable job at a big company being the stable thing to do, starting a business being unstable and risky. But when you're in that big company, you have no control of whether it goes out of business or it decides to lay you off. You're basically buffeted from all of the market forces until they just crush you all at once, where you have no control. If you put yourself out there as an entrepreneur, you feel the risk, the wins of it way more, but you actually control the sales. And with all the tools like, cloud computing and programming and all the stuff to get going, it's actually way less risky than it used to be.
That's so true. One of the things that, I always think about in, I haven't read the book End of Jobs, but one of the things that I think about when it talks about that is my own staff. Because I know some of my own staff that work for me in my other companies, they listen to these podcasts. And so I always am like cognizant of that when I think about it. But it's very true that even just that book goes back to that quote that you talked about, which was like you said, if you don't build your dreams, someone else will hire you to build theirs. And I even know of a person who used to work for me who came to me and told me that quote and said, "That's why I'm leaving you." And I'm like, great. So now they're leaving me because of these quotes and stuff. So, I was so sad for that person to leave, but at the same time, I was happy at the same time, because that's truly what, if that's what your passion is and that's what you want to do, you should leave where you are now and go start your own business and do your own thing. And,
I think the thing is also, people shouldn't just, as soon as they have an idea or they're passionate about something, they should quit. Like, are you passionate about running a restaurant? Go work at a restaurant for 5 years, do all the jobs, and then quit, right? Go get that experience and live in that area and embrace it. And that's a perfectly good way to go down this path without just going, I'm going to just never have a job from the time I'm 20 onward, right? I think there's real value in getting skills and then doing your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Michael, what is the next thing for you right now on your vision or your dream board?
Well, dreaming. My main goal the next couple of years is to be the place that people come and learn about Python programming in all the ways it's impacting the world. This is becoming the most popular mainstream programming language, period. And that's a huge, passionate community. And my goal is to just serve them maybe through the storytelling in the podcast, through the practical skills in the courses, but focus on that. Super long term, I would love to create a renewable energy startup. I really think that transforming the way we use energy as a society, as humans, is super important. I would love to do something that contributed to that. But if I just, if all I ever contribute is the stuff I'm doing in the programming space, that would be great.
Well, I thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us today on the podcast. And, I want to, offer you to come back in the future as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur as well. But how can the listeners reach out to you after they listen to this episode if they want to, follow you more or, listen to your podcast and various things like that?
Well, thanks. I'd love to come back sometime. If you want to get in touch with me, the two best places are probably Twitter and email. On Twitter, I'm @mkennedy. And on email, I'm michael@talkpython.fm. So I'd love to hear from you.
And if he doesn't respond to you right away, it's because he's using his very cool app that helps him snooze his email. So
That's right. Snooze that till Tuesday. Till I deal with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you both. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.